What's up, all the video and audio listeners? I messed up again. It's Wormy here. For like the first 6 to 7 minutes of the podcast, Matt was just completely muted. So, yep. And he's just really quiet throughout the whole thing. I got a lot of new equipment. I talked about that, and you can obviously see. And I was trying to um, toy with the settings, and I just didn't have it right before recording. So I apologize immensely. Um, and next week we will have that figured out. Thank you guys for being patient. If you want, just skip ahead until you hear Matt. If not, you can just listen to me ramble for a little bit. But it's still a great episode. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. Welcome back, guys, to the 615 Locker Room Podcast. Wow, we saw a great, phenomenal night last night at Geodis Park. Uh, the game against I mean, it was just, I don't know, I'm speechless. It was awesome. It's what we're expecting. Um, I'm your host Wormy here. Sorry, I got a little excited ahead of myself with my co-host Matt. Matt was at Geodis Park. What was your thoughts during this game? You go watch his video. He narrated and commentated a lot, and it was super helpful. But it was just it seemed like the vibes were electric in this big win. What was your thoughts on the game while you were there? Mhm. Yeah, I mean there was several key moments. I want to point out the Minnesota goal against us because that was just that was a banger. I mean I feel like there's not a lot there that you can do because who shoots it from that far out and makes it like that? That's kind of a rare thing to see. So props to I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, but props to him for scoring that. That was a good goal. And you know, I don't think there's much stopping it either way, so I don't hold that super against us. Christian Espinoza opened his bank account for us last night with his goal, and then obviously another Sam Brace. Is Sam gonna be in the conversation for Golden Boot again? Uh, mhm. Yeah. I think we saw the BJ system in full swing last night. Like we there's been times where we've seen glimpses of it, whether legs weren't ready, someone was out, whatever. I feel like last night that's what we're supposed to be consistently seeing, which is super exciting because it was super entertaining and phenomenal to watch. You know, you mentioned a interesting thing in your vlog is that last night the man of the match, the Yasmanian Devil Patrick Yazbak. Um, we're all kind of worried about where Sam Surge is thinking about going. We need to look at our other guys because if we put everyone on a huge pedestal of and get really good output, I mean, we could lose key players from making moves like that. So I think that conversation needs to change a little bit to sort of be watching out for what other teams are interested in our midfield guys, especially because they're going to show out a lot in this system. Hmm.
Gets to go with Australia to the World Cup, has a good World Cup. There's always players that like put themselves on the map at the World Cup that you've never heard of. Like he could be the guy that we're looking to replace in the summer, shockingly, and that'll be a big test for us if something like that happens because I think that's one thing Nashville SC has kind of not had to deal with in their history. Really, is we've never really had the closest I guess you'd say is uh, Rodriguez, not Rodriguez. Is that his name? Perez. Why can't I was
Uh,
thinking James Rodriguez. Jonathan Perez, our world record breaking Nashville SC signing for £3 million. Dude who scored one goal and played like 20 matches for us. So we haven't had like a true key player kind of break through and get poached by like a bigger team yet. So that'll be a big test for Mike Jacobs and co. Whenever that moment does come. Maybe it's not this summer, but like I would not be shocked if like Yazbak's a guy that gets on the radar of some European teams this summer. So, but I mean, he was awesome in this game. Like the chemistry he's built with, particularly Espinoza and Nahar, they kind of have like a little mini triangle game they're playing on the right side of our team right now, and it is just like tearing. It tore Minnesota up for most of the game, and really. The only time Minnesota got back in the game was felt like the second half. We kind of were like 3-1,
yeah.
we got this. Let's take our foot off the gas a little. We know we've got another match coming up on Wednesday that we need to kind of keep an eye on, and we kind of just were happy to see the game over the line. But yeah, Yazbak uh, all season really. Like this game was like the one where it was really like, bang, he's this was his kind of coming out party. But all season long, he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Right, not pretty good. He's been great.
I agree with all the points that you made there. I think I this may have been the first game that I noticed Eddie kind of struggling a little bit. Some of those decisions that he was making in the first half, and they were just kind of they were on him, and I feel like he played, you know, I don't know, he just didn't come out and play that great in my mind. And then I was watching with a buddy, and he was saying that Daniel Lovitz he thought was struggling quite a bit. So was there any sort of outliers to you that you think were having a rough game?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say either one of them was necessarily like struggling. It's
Hmm.
probably just a case of where like when the other players are playing so well, it just kind of
Hmm.
makes those performances look like a little bit less. Like I didn't think Eddie necessarily did anything bad in this game. There maybe was a few, misplaced passes throughout the game, but I mean those are kind of going to be common at this level of the game. Um, he definitely does not have like the impact on the attack that Yazbek has. Like, he's just kind of going back, getting the ball off the center backs, maybe winning back possession a handful of times. But I mean, he did have the shot off the post that believe Sam tapped back in that it ended up being offsides, which I was like, oh my
Hmm.
god, are we ever going to get an Eddie Tagseth goal? I thought that was going to be
Yeah.
the one right there. But yeah, he kind of, I think he hasn't found like his full ability to
Hmm.
be in the attack, and maybe that's maybe that's just kind of a reactionary thing to Yazbek. Yazbek's flying up the field, he's getting all over the place, getting to the attack. Maybe that's just creating a situation where Eddie's just sitting deeper, not having to do as much. Lovitz, he did have kind of a weird game. Like he did, like once again, didn't play bad, was solid defensively. But there's definitely some times where I was expecting to see a little bit more out of him, like maybe a
Hmm.
couple more crosses into the box, maybe him just like really bombing forward a little bit more. And he's a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if it's like the age thing. I don't know if it's just like that we're now just we're trying to retain possession, so he's not necessarily just going to whip a
Hmm.
ball in all the time like he used to. Uh, Once again, not bad, but like when everybody else, when you got
Hmm.
Andy, it's almost unfair. It's like when you got Andy Nahar on the right,
Hmm.
and you got Patrick Yazbak as Eddie Tagseth's midfield partner. When you're comparing yourselves to what those two guys are doing right now, it's almost not fair to even like compare
Yeah.
those guys. But sometimes when like when your one partner, when your one side is doing all the fun attacking stuff, you kind of have to react and be the safer guy, the one who's doing a little bit more conservative stuff. So, I don't think either one of them did bad, but it's almost like, oof, when you're looking at what Andy Nahar is doing, when you're looking at Yazbek's doing,
Yeah.
compared to what those two guys are doing, it definitely is a different level right now.
Yeah, and maybe I just was miscalculating because you know I don't know I may have misjudged things. Obviously, another kind of notable point in the game was the referee getting his head knocked around a little bit, and the stoppage time for that was like 9 minutes or 7 minutes or something. Hate to see the refs get injured, and obviously it wasn't intentional, but that was kind of an interesting thing that I haven't seen yet as a soccer fan. Um, you said that in your vlog, and I didn't notice it during the game. You said that you sort of was not in favor of him for the second half of the game. So I was wondering what sort of things you were seeing to give your refs perspective for the viewers.
Yeah, it wasn't anything major really. Like I think he was pretty good in the first half, like pretty consistent. He didn't have a whole lot to do. There weren't like there was any like big calls or
Hmm.
decisions he had made, but like it kind of was like there was a moment where Sam was kind of dribbling across the top of the box, looking to get a shot off, and Will Trapp from Minnesota kind of came across him, and it was one of those. He just clattered into him. He didn't really get the ball, but Sam was also kind of losing possession of the ball, which like sometimes referees are kind of like, well, you'd already lost possession of the ball, and I'm kind of like, well, he still fouled him. Like it's like you don't even have to have the ball to be fouled. Like if you're
Yeah.
100 yards away from where the ball is and a guy punches you, it's still a foul. But um, that was one that was a little like wonky. Where like that to me was a pretty clear penalty, which in that moment in the game we were pretty much in control, so it wasn't like a huge
Yeah.
factor. But then he called some like kind of like borderline stuff in Minnesota's favor and like the like immediate aftermath of that. So that was kind of more what it was. It was that he didn't call that penalty and then like was kind of calling things a little tighter on. It just felt like he was like I don't, and this is always a hard thing as a referee is like, you are trying to do right by both teams and try to like keep a little balance. Like, we keep track in our heads, good referees at least, what the foul count is, how many fouls you've called on each team. And like, you're not necessarily going to, if a team's just fouling the crap out of the other team, you're going to call all the fouls. But, you do want there to be some balance. You do want to like, not feel like you're heavily favoring one team over the other, even if that's the way the game flow is making it go. And it just kind of felt like we were in control of the game, and maybe he was being a little tighter on us and a
Hmm.
little looser on Minnesota. So it wasn't like there was anything egregious. It's just one of those kind of like I felt like he was kind of not trying to give us any favors because we were pretty much in control of the match, but he was calling a little more of those kind of close
Hmm.
call tiki taka kind of calls on us. So it's not a horrible performance. Like I'm not gonna like throw him under the bus or anything like that. But this or that particular stretch of the second half, it felt like he was not wanting to really like
Hmm.
give us any more help than we already because we did anyway. We didn't need it. We won the game 3-1. So
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it was probably worked out for his benefit. But it felt like if it's a tight game, back and forth, bang bang game, maybe he's a little more considerate of that penalty shout.
Yeah.
But us already up 3-1, pretty much in control of the match. I felt like he wanted to let that one go and not, insert himself. But then 2 minutes later, he's calling some kind of borderline calls on us. So it's one of those kind of situations. It wasn't a bad performance, but it was just kind of like that little 10, 15-minute stretch was a little bit like,
Yeah.
I hate it when stuff like that happens, but I understand it to the same token.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this, in last season is sort of, the better performing teams, I feel like often will, people will look at him a bit differently. So, it'll be harder for us to get the red card or the penalty. Maybe. I mean, all refs, are supposed to go into it fair, but that does happen sometimes. Just kind of side note, I recently saw a video. This happened like last month ago, of the VAR POV from the Man City versus shoot, who was it against? It may have been Liverpool, where he got where Holland got fouled. Have you seen this video that I'm talking about? Do you know?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I've seen some of the videos that I think are kind of in the ballpark we're talking about. I don't know if I've seen this specific one.
Well, okay, so Holland basically was going in for the goal. He scored a goal, but the goal was disallowed because he got fouled. But then Holland fouled the guy defending him.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. I know the one you're talking about where it was like a breakaway one on
Hmm.
one. Holland gets pulled back first, but then he pulls the other guy back, but then the ball goes in the net, and there's like this whole weird sequence of, okay, which foul came first? What are we reviewing? What are we looking at? And like it ended up being no goal. Holland did commit the foul, but he was fouled first, so they bring it all the way back and give the red card to the Liverpool player for the initial dog so pullback. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah,
That was a fun one, an interesting one from a referee perspective. To like, you've got about seven different things that happen in this one crazy sequence. What is the final decision that you ultimately get yourself to? Which, to Liverpool's point, was like it was almost the worst case scenario for them because they were going to lose the game one way or the other. They're like, we would have been better off losing 3-1 than having one of our better players get a red card right at the end of the match and now having to miss the next match. So just a weird sequence. I think in the grand spectrum of things, by the laws of the game, the referee and the VAR team all got it right in the
yeah.
end. But it was I actually, to your point, I was texting a buddy of mine. I was like, dude, the Liverpool players are the last people that should be running up to the referee right now complaining because they're going to get their own player sent off. Because if they actually go to VAR, if they fully review this, the first foul is a denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity by the Liverpool player, and he's going to get a red card. So, like, Liverpool just needs to go, okay, we'll take the goal 3-1. Oops, we lost. Bad. No, that's fine. And just get out of there. But when it all went to VAR, when all got it reviewed,
Hmm.
it ended up hurting them more than anything. I was literally texting a buddy of mine now that you've refreshed my full memory. I was like, dude, Liverpool players do not need to be mentioned about this one. They need to let this one go. This is going to work out so much worse for them.
Yeah, dude, it was the coolest because, like, of course, we've gotten, I think it was, the MLS Cup final. We saw like refs POV, but this was like a very like detailed sort of. This is what happens whenever they go to VAR check because, uh, once again referencing your latest vlog, you're like, I don't know why the players are complaining. They're gonna send it to VAR and they'll probably make the right call. And I fall under that same category. Of course, sometimes they'll mess it up. People do, but we have VAR. They're gonna check it, and I'm in support of that system personally. I know some people don't like VAR, but I think it helps.
I think it's not a perfect system. I think there's probably a better way to get to it. Like I always talk about, I think I've talked about this in my live streams and stuff in the past. Uh, when NFL first brought in replay, this is 20 years ago now, so it's they had a timer on it. Like we're like now they're
Mm-hmm.
pretty much just like we're gonna look at the whole thing, we're gonna get it right. But they had a timer on it when they first started. Like if you and because the whole point was like clear and obvious error.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't figure out if you got this call right within like 90 seconds, you probably didn't get it wrong, or it's probably not a clear error. So, but now it seems like they've kind of shifted more to let's make sure we 100% get the calls right. So they'll look at something for 6 minutes if it takes it, or 20 minutes if it takes it to make sure they got the call right. Whereas like I kind of think spirit of the rule, spirit of the game. If it takes you more than a minute to review something, it probably wasn't that bad of a call. It might not have been 100% right, but
Mm-hmm.
we should not be delaying games like multiple minutes to review stuff. But I think like to your point with like some of the referee POVs, we're starting to see like sometimes they're like giving us the audio of like the
Mm-hmm.
referees conversations they're having. I think we're gonna get to a point where like eventually that's all stuff that comes out normally. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're kind of maybe like trying to get the referees used to it now because I'm sure there's stuff referees are saying on the field. I know there's stuff I'm saying on the field when I'm refereeing that I don't necessarily want on microphone.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm sure they're trying to get them more accustomed to because, like, I think they've just in the last year, MLS was one of the first ones that started, but now the Premier League's doing it too. Where when they do a when they do a VAR check, the referee then comes out on the microphone and
Mm-hmm.
explains what the
Mm-hmm.
decision is. So the referees are getting more comfortable having their voice heard, saying things publicly. And I think we might get to the point now because, like, if you listen to like a Premier League broadcast, they're letting the commentators listen in on the
Mm-hmm.
conversations that the VAR guys are having. So they're sitting there like, if you watch a Premier League match, they're saying, "We're hearing from Peter Wilson, who's in the VAR booth, and he's looking at this. He's recommending their." So like they're hearing the conversations that the referees are having, so they're letting it be a part of the broadcast to a certain extent. And I think we're a couple of years away from like we're going to start getting that pumped into the broadcast. We're going to get to hear the VAR guy radio down to the referee like, "Hey, we think we got a handball on number 7. You might want to go to the monitor and give it a look." And hear more of those conversations, which I find interesting just from a
Mm-hmm.
referee perspective, because like that's one of my biggest challenges. Like when I started refereeing, was like communicating with the players, communicating with my other referees. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like a little bit of a one track mind person where I'm like I'm doing my thing. It's not always easy for me to like I think like I call a foul on a player, I feel like it's pretty obvious, but then a player comes and like bitches at me. I'm kind of like, what are you doing? like I've had to like learn like man management, like to be able to talk to
Yeah.
players and be like, hey, dude, this is what I saw, this is what I called. Like that's a under like appreciated part of the referee game is like it's not just see foul, call foul. You also have to like explain foul, talk foul, communicate with your guys and stuff like that. And like, especially now, I've like got to do some college games like the last like 3 or 4 years, and we get to do like the mics, which I was
Mm-hmm.
not used to at all because like at the like lower level youth level, you don't use mics ever. So like having that level of communication where like we're talking the whole game is kind of crazy. So I would love to see more of that. Like you're talking about with the POV cameras, with the mics on, getting to hear those conversations because I think that would help referees too because like it's one of the things across sports. Like you're an NBA fan, you probably know
Mm-hmm.
this as much as anything. It's like one of the biggest complaints I think fans have about sports is just like the referees make these calls that we think are weird or we don't agree with or we don't understand, and we never get an explanation for it. We never get like
Yeah.
firm communication. But if we got that kind of in the moment explanation of him saying, "This is what I saw. This is the decision I made," I think it would be good for referees. Like I know like it's kind of like a protected class to a certain degree, but I mean like as long as you're not like saying like racial slurs or like stuff like that where you're to the
Yeah.
players like why would you not want that communication? Why would you not want to like have that it's one thing I've never understood since I got into refereeing is like myself is just to be like, hey, and like this is what I saw, maybe I got it wrong, you've got a different angle than me. Like one thing I've taken with coaches is that I don't argue with coaches anymore unless I just know they're completely stupid.
Yeah.
But I'll like give them a thing like, hey, I understand you saw what you saw from 75 yards away. I was 5 yards away, so maybe I saw it a little different, but I think we're gonna have to disagree on this one. But like I try to not like argue back, like which is so against my nature as a human being, just to be a sarcastic a hole. That's been one of my biggest challenges as a referee is to be like, hey, maybe I need to be a little bit like there was like I think like 2 years ago there was a game I was refing and there was a dad who was yelling about something in the stand, and I did the old like this as I was just running by it, and I actually heard him yell like, "I saw you flick me off," and I'm like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't do that. That's probably a bad decision by me. That's like he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but I probably have to be smarter in this moment of my end." So like, I would love to see more transparency, more ref cams, more ref microphones. As a ref myself, as a representative of the referee union, I would love to see more transparency, so maybe people would understand more what we go through, what we're the type of the process we go through out on the field.
Yeah, and I don't. We went on a huge tangent about refing, both of us, but I do think that
Yeah.
I think that transparency almost always is a good thing. And I think, a transparency with the ref, with like the announcing, the call to the stadium, or the recording the talks, whatever. I think that one holds refs accountable so they don't just make blatant, you know, bad calls on purpose, because people will say that they do that. It holds them accountable. It educates the fans, and I think it just the more transparency is normally good.
Oh yeah, like I did you ever like? Are you familiar with like the Tim Donaghy story from the NBA?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I remember they did a podcast where he was on it a couple years ago, and like he was kind of explaining the whole story, and like he was basically like laid it out. He's like, we weren't rigging games, we weren't fixing games, but we have our pre-game meeting where they say, hey,
Hmm.
last game we had maybe too many fouls on this team, or maybe we're a little too tight this way. So he was just like taking general ref feedback that you get, and then he was passing that off to like
Yeah.
the betters, the bookies, whoever he was working with. Like, hey, they're pretty much telling us, we didn't call enough fouls on Kobe last night. Call a few more fouls on Kobe last night. He
Hmm.
wasn't saying like, hey, we're going to screw this whole game up and we're going to make sure the Lakers win. He was just giving them a little bit of side bets, like which is common stuff for referees to do. Is be like, hey, last game I think we let this get a
Hmm.
little out of control. Let's tighten up type stuff. And that was a really interesting one for me to not even being a basketball referee, just hearing like because we have those same kind of conversations as soccer
Yeah.
referees, like the first half got a little away from us. We might have an incident if we got to tighten up a little bit type stuff. Um, I do think he probably was a little bit more on the take than he let on, obviously,
Yeah.
but that was just a funny one because NBA does like there's like this weird reputation with NBA where like what's the guy Scott Foster
Scott Foster. Yeah.
who like he's got this reputation where like every time the NBA might want a series to go an extra game for TV ratings, he somehow is the referee on the game that like
Yeah.
make sure it goes a certain way. So NBA does have like a little bit of a funny stuff with that, like soccer stuff. Like it's always like there's funny stuff, especially in the Premier League, where like people dig up old like Instagram videos of like, oh look at this guy when he was 21, he's in a Manchester United jersey, and now he's refereeing against them in Liverpool. There was a dude who was refereeing in Premier League who was like on video like saying that he hated like Jurgen Klopp, and he was like doing lines of cocaine in like a video years ago. So they're not perfect over there either, but it, we could do a whole separate video series on refereeing that I would just like Disney. This is gonna be a side quest we're gonna go on
Yeah.
at some point in time. Let's just do a side Disney podcast, side refereeing podcast.
The we can move on after this, but with the Tim Donahue thing, the most blatant thing was like them never calling Allen Iverson for double dribbles, and he's like, "Okay, tonight,
Oh,
guys, we have to call it." And it just like
mhm.
completely screwed the game because he couldn't play. Like that guy was a scumbag when it came to that. There's a great it's called like Untold on Netflix that has a bunch of documentary series. They have a good one on that. That's pretty good. Um, but moving back into soccer, uh, we are going against Messi and company on Wednesday. An interesting thing that I was thinking about today is that if we go with our typical starting lineup, uh, the back line is obviously what we have to worry about when it comes to facing Messi, and we have Maxwell, who has never played against Messi, and we also have Shawake as keeper, who I don't I don't think even in like the cup games he played against them either. So two really important faces facing Messi for the first time. I am a little worried about that. Um, and then it depends on who we play at winger. Obviously, Espinoza, coming from the Western Conference, probably hasn't fought against Miami too much. So it'll be interesting to see. We made some subs at the end of last game that I think we're kind of trying to save feet for Wednesday. Um, so I'm expecting a pretty strong lineup. Uh, but what do you think about sort of what to expect for Wednesday?
Yeah, I think everything kind of lined up pretty well for us in this regard, where it's, we had a pretty comfortable win, so we were able to kind of get a few players out a little bit earlier and then even a few more players out even a little late. So protect everybody. And basically the last 20 minutes of the game against Minnesota, we really overexerting ourselves one way or the other. So it kind of worked out pretty well, especially having that being a home match and a Wednesday match as opposed to like a Tuesday match. So there's an extra day rest in there. You're staying at home. It sets up really well for us to play like the strongest team we could possibly play on Wednesday and really give it a shot. And then you kind of know going into the second leg, if they come in here and beat us 6-0, we're kind of like, all right, screw it. We'll throw the second leg away
Yeah.
and just like go back to focusing on the league. But if we come out, we get a good result Wednesday, you might see a more rested team next Saturday when we play Columbus, and us go for it again against Miami in the second leg. So it'll be interesting, but also like I keep feeling like he's gonna have to rest at some point in time, Messi, but like he played the full 90 this weekend too. Like they played their full team this night. So. But I mean, that's kind of what you want. We've brought in a guy like Christian Espinoza. We've made some big signings. We've made some big moves. But you want to test yourself up against the best. If you
Mhm.
can't beat Miami, you can't you got to do something. So it'll be a good test Wednesday. But where we're at in terms of development here, I'm pretty excited for it. Like you mentioned like Wola Daisy and like Schwake. I think we might catch Miami a little off guard just
Mhm.
because we're going to try to keep the ball a little bit more. We're going to try to play a little bit more than they might be used to. The last
Mhm.
time we played them, we brought Brian Acosta in, and we're just like we're going to
Yeah.
almost go back to Gary Smith style and just kind of like try to like frustrate you defensively a little bit. But I would be surprised if BJ did anything other than play his best possible team and really go
Mhm.
for it in this one, especially being a home match. So I got high hopes for it, but you never know until you get out there to see, are we really better? Are we really like in the ballpark with them? It'd be a fun match. I'm so mad that like I not gonna be there. Like I was like fully like prepared for it, and then I'm like, oh, my boss on Friday was like, hey, could you go to out of town next week for some work stuff? And like not even thinking, I looked at my referee schedule and I was like, I only have a game Monday, and I was like, oh yeah, I can't go Monday, but like I can go the rest of the week. And he's like, all
Mhm.
right, we'll have you there Tuesday through Friday. I'm like, all right, cool. And then like 3 hours later, I'm like, oh dang, that game is on Wednesday, isn't it? Ah. But that's also a hard thing to tell your boss. Be like, hey, I can't do my job because I want to go watch a soccer game. Sorry. So it's kind of like trying to get ahead in life. What are we doing? But
I was looking at Miami's sort of record and what they've been doing so far this season just to check in, and their only loss so far has been against probably one of the other strongest teams, like which is LAFC. Um, so I mean, I'm expecting it to be a good fight. It's we're I'm a history guy, so looking at the history of Nashville versus Miami, it's I don't want to throw myself out there with saying that we're gonna get a Nashville win. I hope for that, but who knows what will happen? I'll be supporting the boys.
there's the PM history and the AM history, the pre Messi and the after Messi. The pre Messi history, we kicked their butts. We dominated them. We wiped them off the face of the earth. It's the after Messi history that does not look so good. Um, but if you want to do like a little bit of 6 degrees of separation for the matchup, I did watch LAFC play Dallas yesterday,
Hmm.
and they only beat Dallas 1-0, which we last week that looked like a bad result for us to a certain degree, like getting a 0-0 result against Dallas. But now, the team that's come out hottest out of the gates of the season, LAFC, only gets a 1-0 win over Dallas at home, even. And so suddenly, like that Dallas team looks like they might be a little bit better than maybe people thought, kind of.
Hmm.
So maybe that's a little bit better result than it looked like for us last week. So, I'm not a mathematician, but LA beat Miami 3-0. LA beat Dallas 1-0. We tied Dallas 0-0. I think the math might work out to where like we're in a pretty good spot looking at that. So I don't know, but it'll be interesting. Like I think the biggest thing, like, and it's easier said than done, but I mean, like, if you watch Miami, there are other guys this season at least.
Hmm.
I've watched their games. They haven't really come to life. Like they signed this like big time Mexican striker to be kind of like the
Hmm.
de facto Luis Suarez replacement, and he's got no goals, no assists yet. He hasn't really clicked in yet. DePaul had a nice goal this past weekend, but they're kind of back to when Messi first got their mode, where
Hmm.
they're gonna do what he does. So it's like easier said than done, but like if you can just find a way to not let him kill you,
Yeah.
you can have a chance. Like they're still a very dangerous team across the board, but like if you can just not like have those just unbelievable messy moments of brilliance, like if you can find a way to somehow, once again, easier said than done. Like if I knew how to do this, I'd be on the sideline of an MLS team right now. But like that's kind of what it seems like Miami is at this moment. Is they're kind of like weirdly more reliant on Messi than they ever have been, but
Hmm.
he's still doing the thing he does. So it's like, no, just stop Messi. Just don't let him do things. It's like, great, great. Yeah, good luck with that. But yeah, but I think we have the kind of, you know, firepower maybe we didn't
Hmm.
have like last
Yeah.
year where they kind of ran us off the field like 4-1, 3-1 in the playoffs or whatever it was. I think, now we can maybe get some goals back, whereas last year it
Hmm.
was kind of like we were trying to hold on for dear life a little bit more. We might be able to like actually try to go toe to toe with them a little bit more. So it'll be fun. I actually have I'm trying to like line up some options. I'm looking into where the sports bars are, where the soccer
Hmm.
bars are, to try to make sure I find a place where I can watch the match and have some fun next week.
Yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be a fun match. I hope our back line. I think we got to play a little bit differently. I mean, there's just so much space that where Messi can get in between. That's going to be dangerous if he gets there. Um, but we can answer with goals pretty easily. So I think it'll. I think at the end of the day, either match one or two of the series, it's going to come down to just who can score more goals in 90 minutes, and not necessarily a defensive masterpiece, I guess.
Yeah, I think to your point, we will have a lot better, and it's almost unfair to judge them versus Messi, but we'll know more about our new look defense and goalkeeper after this match, just
Hmm.
because Minnesota had some decent players, Dallas had some decent players, New England has players, but what we're going to see against Miami on Wednesday is going to be a completely different level. So how they handle that and deal with that, I mean, like I when he was right in front of us because I was sitting in the sports section of this match, but the Schwake, his just patience, I guess I would call it, on the ball
Hmm.
was unnerving a few times where I'm just like, dude,
I've been saying this.
you are yeah, you've been saying it. You have been the champion of this, and it hasn't burned us so far. But like Miami and Messi is like a dude who's gonna like snap on you a lot quicker
Hmm.
than some of the dudes who've been playing, where he just thinks he's got all the time in the world. Like having him right in front of me, being in the sports section this week, I was like, oh my god, he's just so weirdly like uncomfortably like patient and slow on the ball. It's not even slow because like he knows what he's doing, but I'm like, and maybe this is just like Gary Smith like hangover. Like I'm like, no, get the ball off your foot. You're making me uncomfortable, man. Like get the ball off your foot. Just boot it up the field. What are we doing? What are we doing? But like, yeah, across the board in a lot of different ways. And it's kind of good. I'm glad we're getting this early in the season to a certain degree
Hmm.
because we've got our big expectations this season and we get a big test kind of right out of the gates. I don't think we play them again until like June. So if we didn't get this opportunity to play them right now,
Hmm.
we might be getting a weird, you know, false hope built up till then. So we'll get a good test. And honestly, like, if things don't go well, we got a lot of season left to kind of say, hey, now we know what can we do to correct it? What can we do to fix it? When they come back in June, when we play them in the playoffs in October,
Yeah.
what do we learn from this early match in February? So it's like iron sharpens iron. You got to see
Hmm.
what you got.
I won't do a score prediction for this game, but my prediction is that Joe Willis will be the starting goalkeeper against the first game against Miami.
Mm, interesting. My mom actually asked me because she's a big Joe Willis fan. She asked me today, when is Joe Willis going to play again? When is he going to come into the game? And I was like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think they're going to give Schwake as many games as they can early on just to keep the confidence building, keep his growth going. But there is going to come a game where there'll be a rotation, there'll be a rest game. It'd be interesting. Do they? Because so if you think they go Joe Willis, you think we're going to kind of go back to the kind of sit a little deeper, play a little more defensively?
We might see some
Might
more
give us that.
Jack Mayer action, maybe,
Mm,
but
mm.
I think we're gonna go with I think we may pick experience against Miami. I think we may value that a little bit higher in this first leg.
Yeah, we could totally see that. I could totally would not be surprised at all because like if there's one thing I will say about BJ Callahan is that when it comes to these kind of non MLS competitions, I have not been able to get a read on what he's thinking at all.
Yeah.
Because I remember last year when we played Orlando in the U.S. Open Cup, and I was like, we had like a weird gap there where it was like we didn't have a whole lot going on. It didn't feel like we needed to rotate the team at all. And I was like, the Open Cup, this is a big opportunity for us to like win a tournament, go get a cup. I think we're going to go for it. And we brought like the C squad to Orlando. And I was like, what are we doing? I think we even were on the podcast talking about it. Like, and then Wyatt Meyer balls out. We score
Hmm.
goals. We beat Orlando, roll on. But I mean, that was a game very similar to this Miami game where I was going to it think we're going to go strong. We're going to go for this. We're going to chase the trophy. And then the C squad shows up. So
Well, I
I
don't
don't know.
know if
I'm feeling like it's going to be pretty strong. Maybe like to your point, it'll be like kind of a mix, like a little bit of a and B squad. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what BJ
I
does
don't
because I
know
have
if
not
it
been able to
was
get a read on him at this point.
rumored or if it was confirmed. I feel like it was confirmed, but that Orlando game, I think we had a lot of guys out with illness. I think there was a food poisoning thing that happened.
That probably makes sense. Yeah, we've had that. We need to get like a new team physician or something like that because we seem to how we just had that last week. We had like four guys out with like illnesses. Like we need a new doctor.
I saw someone in the Facebook group, and this is, Facebook stupidity at its peak. Like, Sam Surge has measles. That's why he's out. He's spreading it to the rest of the team. I was like, Jesus Christ. Um, but yeah, Miami will be fun, and then we'll have Columbus a few days after, which they're at the near the bottom of the conference. Diego Rossi obviously is their guy, so it's gonna be a fun game. I think that's a win. I think I can go ahead and predict that. But uh, what do you think we should expect from the Columbus game?
Yeah, I mean Columbus just feels like they're one of those teams that will always kind of be in the mix in MLS. They're never going to be. I wouldn't say never, but like they're always going to be a tough opponent. They're always going to be a challenge. But on form, on performances so far this season, we certainly look like we're doing a little bit better than they are. So that's a game, we should expect to win. But that's kind of. I think that's kind of. I saw a lot of people talking about the Dallas thing, and it kind of like made me like maybe shift my opinion a little bit about the Dallas game, where I was kind of like, oh, it's okay, we got a draw on the road, not a big deal. But it's kind of like if you're expecting to be like sixth, seven, eighth, ninth in the table, that's a game you accept and say, oh yeah, 6-7, 6-7. That's a game you can accept a draw in and kind of move on. But if like you're really ambitious, if you're trying to go for supporter shield, if you're trying to win MLS Cup, if you're trying to really be one of the top teams in the league, you win those games. So like
Hmm.
this Columbus game, it'll be interesting because I think they're still a good team. I think they're still a solid team. I don't think they are what they have been in the past. Um, so it's a game where if you want to be one of the best teams in the league, you should win, and I hope we do.
That is our second 6-7 reference of the year, so we're starting off hot, man.
I'm gonna try to figure out a way to get it in every week, I guess.
We got to. Kind of stepping away from soccer for a second. Oscars talk, obviously. Timothy Chalamet is under a lot of heat right now. I don't know if you've seen this, but him and Matthew McConaughey just came out with a interview for Vanity Fair, and he in some context he said that ballet and opera is a dying art form, and that no one cares about it, uh, and that he was basically saying like the reason he chose acting was because he didn't want to have to be the person that fights to elevate an art form or put life into it. He wants to be in a thriving business, I guess. But people are so mad. I didn't know that there was so many ballet and opera fans out there. Uh, but people are just absolutely livid about it. They're saying he doesn't deserve the Oscar now. Um, it's interesting. His mom, his grandma, and his sister were all like pretty known ballet dancers in the New York scene. and people keep bringing that up, like, oh, his mom hates him. I bet. Like, guys, what are we doing here?
Well, where do you think he came up with this opinion? Where do you think he's just randomly like has this information and this opinion on ballet, or do you think it's maybe like informed by people that he's in connection with? I mean, that's stupid.
Yeah, because like I understand that we should respect all art, you know, guidelines depending on what the art consists of. But if you're someone who is in the arts, you should respect and try to upbring other arts. And so I get where people are saying with that, but he grew up around it. He knows what it is. Half the people arguing this, I would bet that most of them have never been to either of those things, but they probably have been to a movie.
Oh yeah, well, it's like the old like you say the quiet part out loud, where like it's true, but maybe you're not supposed to say it. But then at the same time, it's like to your point, it's like are the people mad at him going to like go pump a bunch of money into those uh properties, get them back on their feet? Because I mean stuff like that, it's never gonna die. But I mean, it's just like movies in general like aren't like what they used to be. Even like
Hmm.
it's just like everything's like so spread out with like streaming and all the different options and the ways we consume media now. It's like everything's different than it was now. But it's like it's like I haven't really seen much of the discourse on this, but I would imagine nobody's really given a counterpoint or a explanation or a solution. They've probably just been mad, like you
Hmm.
said, oh, support all art, support all art, support all art. It's like, well, okay, well, what did I say that was wrong?
Yeah.
What it correct me, prove me wrong. What's the meme with the dude sitting with the coffee cup being like, prove me wrong?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. It's like, yeah, you don't typically see like, and like that's kind of one of the things like I kind of like about him is like he does not seem to have like he's weirdly like both like super like actor artsy bro, but also
Hmm.
like not, because like I remember like last year in the build up to the Oscars, he was basically talking about wanting to win Oscars the way like
Wanted to be the
Tom Brady talks
greatest.
about wanting to win yeah, wanting to win Super Bowls. Like he's just like I'm not I want to be the best at this. I want to win these awards. Like he's like all these other actors who are like, oh, it's just such an honor to be here and be a part of the group and get nominated. And he's like, no, I want to be the best. I want to put all you in the gutter. I want to be the number one. Like I kind of respect that about him. Like he's not my favorite actor. I think he's done some really good stuff, but like
Mm.
his kind of ambition, like I kind of respect that.
I mean, yeah, I love Timothy Chalamet. I love most of his movies, and I think the biggest the biggest issue with sort of how he carries himself, I mean, to bring it back into Nashville. See, he grew up playing soccer. He grew up playing soccer with Alex Mule, one of our guys. So
Yeah.
he sort of, I think he has this athlete mindset that people that don't like sports aren't ready for. Um, because you know, what's different from what he's saying in like, for example, like an Anthony Edwards or Kobe, even like you have the mindset of wanting to be the best, and yeah, you're kind of arrogant, but I mean, look what he's doing. He can be. Um, and I think that a lot of the people watching some of Timothy's movies aren't familiar with that energy, and it comes off as being, an asshole. Which I mean, you got to be an asshole to succeed in an industry like that. You got to be like hungry. You got to be driven. And so, I mean, I really like it as someone who's into sports.
Yeah, I think in the movie he's campaigning for right now, Marty Supreme, kind of his background, him being around sports a little bit, probably benefited him a lot in that role. Because even though like it's ping
Hmm.
pong, you can maybe argue, is it sport, is it not, whatever you want to do there. But like he's I would argue that as much as like as good of a performance as just generally as an actor, it's one of the better like genuine performances as an athlete. Like you see somebody like you really can like feel that he's a competitor, that he's an athlete. Like the character he's playing, you can tell how badly he wants to win, how
Hmm.
badly he wants to be the best, and like even in like both in like scenes where he's not competing and in scenes where he's competing. Like there's other movies like it's one of the like the funniest things in the world. Like you watch like some bad sports movies where like there's these actors who have like maybe never been outside before. It looks like by the way they perform when they're trying to like do athletic stuff, like Tom Cruise running. One of the most famous things in the world is like the Tom Cruise being unable to correctly run. But yeah, you can tell he's got a little bit of an athletic background. You can tell he's got sports history, even in something like a ping pong player role. Um, and yeah, give him all the credit in the world. Like I think for who's nominated, he's probably my pick to win, just because like
Hmm.
of the ones I saw, like I think he was the best. It feels like it's also kind of like he's building up to that thing where like you get nominated like two or three times,
Hmm.
and maybe it's not even your best role. Like I thought he was awesome as Bob Dylan. I didn't think that movie was very not Bob
Hmm.
Dylan. Was it Bob Dylan? Yeah, Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I didn't think that movie was very good, but I thought he was really good in it.
Hmm.
I thought he was better in that movie than he was in Marty Supreme. But it feels like they're gonna like this is your you've done three good movies in a row. You're gonna get the Oscar now kind of award this year.
His Revenant, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. Where that's like one battle after another. Like is I like Leonardo DiCaprio give him like three Oscars for that movie, but it's like
mhm,
The Revenant is the one he finally got it for, and like some like I going back even like way back in the day, like I'm like he should have won an Oscar for Catch Me If You Can. Like he played
yeah.
like 10 different people in that movie. That was it's one of my all time favorite movies. But like The Revenant, like to your point, is like okay, we finally have to like we can't not give him one now. We just got to give him one at this point.
I saw this really funny meme today. It's like, guy who says opera and ballet is a dying art form, also guy who makes a whole movie about ping pong. It's like, okay. Who cares?
I mean, maybe that's what he's got to do. He's got to go find a good writer, a good director, and he's got to inspire the world with like an opera movie. Like we got to the 2025, 20. I guess we're 2026 now. 2026 Black Swan. Bring that back. Bring I don't even know what a opera or like a
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, sure. Like go do that. But I mean, like I mean that's probably like to his point. Like the first thing we think of is Phantom of the Opera, which is like 100 years old. It's like the first thing we could think of. It's like, oh yeah, this thing that was created 100 years ago, probably not that long, but still very long time ago is like the first thing anybody can think of. It's like, yeah, maybe this art form is just kind of it is what it is at this point.
I no spoilers, but I think a little bit of this is a publicity stunt for Dune Messiah. Whenever that comes out, we can talk about it more in depth, but I'll just throw that out here as sort of a future prediction. Um, on my Oscar movie watch, I watched F1 recently, and it was
Nice.
bad acting, and the movie was pretty predictable, but it was a super fun watch. Um,
Yeah.
have you checked out F1?
Yep. Yep. I would agree with pretty much everything you said there. Is that it's I could yeah you put it as well as I could. Like it's super fun. It's like it's this is every time I review a movie, I feel like this is a common trope for me. It's longer than it should be, but it doesn't feel as long as some other
Hmm.
movies that are too long because like it's fun, it's well paced, like it's got good action, it keeps you kind of engaged.
Your Batman take
I
still pisses me off.
which one is that?
You're like, it's so long, it's not that good. Like, dude, this
Ah,
movie is amazing.
here's the thing. I go back and forth about the Batman so much. Like I like it a lot. I think Robert Pattinson's a great Batman. I think it's because the most recent time I tried to watch it was like my wife was out of town. I was like, I need to rewatch the Batman. I need to give it another shot. And like I fell asleep like 45 minutes in, and I was like, oh, it's so long. It's so long. And it's like I do think it's like I still think it's like one act too much, but I like a lot about it. I like Paul Dano's The Riddler. I like Robert Pattinson's Batman. It's like I don't dislike it. I just wish it was like 30 minutes shorter. So like
I saw
I'll take that L. If I'm wrong about that, I'll take that L.
another one of something that was funny. You and FUP went and watched Across the Spider Verse, and you're like, yeah,
Mhm.
people weren't realizing that they're gonna have to wait another year. Like, I can understand with the last one they had to wait 5 years, but we won't do that again. I was like, I'm watching this in 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's another thing where I'm retroactively getting more annoyed by the Batman that we still don't have a sequel to the Batman. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, this is cool. It's a cliffhanger. We'll get the second part of Across the Spider Verse in a year. And it's like, Which I read it. I did read an interview. Like, I always appreciate when like creators kind of come out and like, explain the deal. Like Matt Reeves has just been like, I just been figuring it out. It's like, no, wait, it's Batman. It's not that hard to write a Batman movie. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't take you 10 years to write a Batman movie. But the Chris Lord and Phil Miller, they're two like the busiest dudes in like Hollywood to begin with.
Hmm.
But they kind of like I saw an interview because they're promoting. Let me give a quick plug here. Project Hail Mary. They're promoting Project Hail Mary. They co-directed the adaptation of this book that I'm going to read in like a month and a half when I go on vacation. They basically said that it was like a kind of a dual problem that they ran into with the Spider Verse movie was that halfway through making the most recent one, they realized they had too much story for one movie, so they're like, let's split it in two. But then when they got to the part where they got to have to make the second or the third one, they're like, well, a lot of what we were going to do was in the first one. So now we got to figure out what the structure is and how to like.
Yeah.
There's still stuff we have to tell, but we don't have the natural 3-act structure left. We have to kind of recalibrate some things. I was like, well, that makes sense. And also, like, apparently that animation style is also insane and takes a long time to do. So, like, if you
Hmm.
don't have the story ready, you're also going to have a long time to do that. But it is what it is. Maybe by the time Nephew P graduates high school, we'll see the finale of it. Hopefully.
Um, yeah, that's so good. I also saw something where Project Hail Mary didn't use any green screens, which was pretty cool. Which
Mm.
they said that, but it could technicality it could mean like, yeah, we use blue screens instead. So who knows? I'm so excited to see that. I booked my tickets for it. Another life update. I'm going to Memphis in like 2 weeks now. So
Nice.
going to my first NBA game with the Grizzlies. Um, I'm flying for the first time by myself, which is going to be a little scary.
Mm.
And then also I'm going to go see my first IMAX movie, which will be Project Hail Mary. I'm going to I forget what it's called in Nashville. It's one of those one day. I won't say what day, but I'm going to see that in IMAX, which I'm super excited for. So a lot of vlogging content will come of that. I
Nice.
watched Bugonia, however you say it. I know you shouted that out last cast.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was so weird, so cool. Jesse Plemons is just anything he's in is awesome. Um, him and him and Kirsten Dunst, I don't feel like they get enough credit for being the power couple that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I said it when we were talking about it last time, but like he would be my choice to win Best Actor for that performance, but he didn't get nominated somehow, so I think it's gonna be Chalamet
I
by default. Like I feel like they almost like somebody in the Oscar was like, "We this is the one we have to give to Chalamet. We cannot nominate Plemons because it's too good. It's
yeah.
too much of a competition. He'll get his in 2 years when we remember that he's had like 7 great movies in a row."
I he's yeah him his little role in Civil War 2 I think back about which was just he's just so eerie. I don't know. I watched the first Zootopia because Zootopia 2 is nominated. I hadn't watched the first one. It was pretty cool. I liked it. It's a bit tougher for me to get into certain animation, but Zootopia was a fun watch. Disney and Pixar usually once I give them a shot, I end up enjoying it.
Yeah, I usually go off my friends with kids. Like if they tell me it's like, "Hey, you would like this one too," because they have to see everything, obviously, because they have
Yeah.
kids. So like, they usually clue me in on like like they were like, uh, Coco, you got to watch Coco.
Mm.
Frozen, you got to watch Frozen. They cue me in on if it's like this one's more for the kids, or this one you'll like this one too. So, like Zootopia, like was one I got kind of mixed reviews from my friends with kids where
Mm.
they're like, it's okay, like if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. But I haven't caught any of those yet. I think the one movie that I definitely want to try to see, I have to like look back at my list of movies I still need to watch. But I know the one big one that I was still kind of wanting to see. I think like there's two maybe is like Hamnet
Hmm.
and Train Dreams. I think those are
Yeah.
two that like feel like they're getting a lot of buzz, like they're in the mix for some awards, and like I've heard good things from friends of mine that I trust. So like those are the two that I may try to watch between now and next Sunday when the actual award ceremony goes down.
Yeah, Hamnet is supposed to be pretty good, and Train Dreams both is Train Dreams. I feel like is the sleeper pick. I haven't really heard much about it outside of like niche Oscar circles. Um, I got halfway through Avatar 2. I still don't care about the Avatar franchise. I'm sorry. it's not my thing.
I am right there with you. Like I watched the first one and I was like, I can appreciate that this is really a well-made movie. Like the technology that went into doing all this is really good. But like the second they like said, we have to make sure we secure this special mineral, unobtainium. I was like, are you kidding me? That's that's the level of writing we're doing here. Is that the magical mineral is called unobtainium? And I was out. I was like, no, nope, nope. I was like, nope, nope. This isn't for me. I was like, I can appreciate that the imagery is really good and like the ride. Hey, we talked about it last week. The ride at Disney World, one of the best rides at Disney World is Flight of Passage. But as an actual movie that I want to watch and enjoy, Avatar, not
Yeah,
my bag.
that's that's probably I'm trying to choke down the avatars mainly to appreciate the ride more and less of the Oscar run, which it maybe I forget what it probably some sort of like visual effects Oscar that it's in, which maybe I, it's not that impressive anymore as it was, when it first came out. I feel like technology has caught up. Um, and then lastly, this isn't an Oscar thing, but I'm just trying to watch more Disney movies before I go. And obviously, pirates is my thing. So I checked out Treasure Planet, and that movie was awesome.
Hmm.
Have you?
So that's one that falls in like a weird gap where like I was too old to watch those movies, and then not a lot of people were talking about them by the time I
Hmm.
was like circling back to them. So like my Disney animated movie trajectory went like Little Mermaid through probably I'm trying to think what the last one like maybe like Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then I was like into high school, and I was like, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna go see a Disney movie. I'm in high school type thing.
Yeah.
And then like those movies like did not seem like they had the legs, didn't hold up the same way that like the Lion Kings and the Little Mermaids and the Aladdins of the world did. So I probably have watched it to be honest, but it's one of those where it's like if I watched it, I have no recollection and no real memory of it. Like and in my age now, I'm really like my wife this drives my wife crazy is like anytime we go to like a trivia night or something like at a bar, Disney trivia comes up and she's like instantly like, oh, Disney trivia, this is you. And I'm like parks now. I'm like all about the parks now. I'm like not even about the like
Yeah.
early 90s movies. I'm good. Parks, I'm good. 90 like 98 and beyond until like the Pixar Renaissance,
Hmm.
count me out. So like Treasure Planet doesn't really like is one that they don't have really like a whole lot of representation at the park. So it's
No.
also one I haven't like really circled back to for that reason. So which I feel bad for because I do think like I've read some stuff over the years. It's like it's one of those where they're like you might have not given Treasure Planet a chance. Circle back to it now, but it's like it was too. I'm past it now at this point in my life.
I think, yeah, I think the like main, because watching like more like Disney YouTube just in general, I think that's kind of the more like sleeper pick of a lot of the movies, which I think is like 2002 or 3 that it came out. Um, but yeah, there's nothing related to it at the park necessarily. It's just one that I wanted to watch, and if I would have had that as a kid, man, I would have watched it every day. So what your peak like Disney childhood movie was like? What would you name on your like what you were watching as a kid? What's your Disney Mount Rushmore?
I mean, I would put honestly Lion King in like probably just
Mm,
my top 5 movies of all time, just in general. So I would go right to that. But I do think like some of like the Disney stuff is kind of like the same as like almost like SNL or like bands. It's like
mhm.
whatever was popular when you were a kid is going to be
Yeah.
like what you think is like the best of all time. Like I remember like when I started going to like the parks again in like 2018 and like outside of like the main core like characters like the Mickey, the Goofies, of the world, the most like represented character in Disney parks is Stitch. And I'm like, I saw Lilo and Stitch, but I was just kind of like, all right, that was that. But like,
Yeah.
there's like a whole generation of people behind me that like, that's their movie. That's the guy.
Hmm.
They love Lilo. They love Stitch. Like, the live action movie obviously came out last year. Hercules is to that way a little bit to the same extent where
Mhm.
like Hercules was like one of the last ones that was kind of in my wheelhouse, but like it's insanely popular with like a certain group of people who like came around that time. It's like it feels like weirdly like Treasure Planet is almost the one where things went off a cliff and like that skipped a generation almost. Like
Yeah.
those last few movies like that, and like I think there was like Brother Bear came out. I watched Brother Bear. Brother Bear, I will always say is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's like children who watched it and loved it and like are obsessed with it, but like I just remember hating Brother Bear when I watched it. Like I was in college, probably drunk watching it. Not drunk. I don't drink. I'm not a drinker, but thinking it was the stupidest movie ever. But I think it's like all those things are like whatever is like
Mhm.
out when like you're in that prime age is always gonna be your best
Yeah.
thing. But like I think Lion King is probably one of my top five movies in general, so I'd put it up there. Um, Beauty and the Beast is great. I mean, Beauty and the Beast
Mhm.
is like the one where it seemed like they really figured out like that next level of like
Mhm.
music and animation. But like, I mean, I like that whole little golden stretch of like Little Mermaid through like maybe Pocahontas is just like
Yeah.
next level where they're like songs are incredible. Like going back to like when I was a kid, like I like the ones that came out before I was even born that I would watch. I probably destroyed the tape of the Robin Hood animated movie when I was a kid, just watching it over and
Mhm.
over again. Like, just it was a VHS tape because I'm old, but like I probably like ruined the tape because I watched that one so many times. So like, I would probably go Robin Hood, Lion King. Anything else? What anything else? Like those are probably my two all time. This is one I don't really know if it counts as a Disney movie. It's always kind of in a weird limbo. Is Oliver and Company? I don't know if you're familiar with Oliver and Company, but
Mhm.
it was one of it was like weirdly like I don't know if it's like produced by Disney, but it wasn't like animated by Disney. It's got some banger songs in it. That's the main reason I like it. It's like Billy Joel wrote the soundtrack, and it's like one of his
Okay.
best songs I've ever heard is in it. So,
It says it's made
but
by
yeah,
Disney.
okay, all right. Well, Lion King number one, Robin Hood sleeper hit, uh, Oliver and Company off the grid, or not Lady, Fox and the Hound
Oh
sleeper
yeah.
hit.
I yeah, I grew up in a like completely different like if I was watching an anime Disney movie, it was probably Pixar.
Hmm.
But like mainly I grew up in like the era of like the DCOM,
Yeah.
the Lemonade Mouth, High School Musical, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um but even as a kid, I really like I didn't watch a ton of Disney stuff. Obviously, Star Wars before it was Disney. I ran that a lot. Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that changes the thing with I think I unplugged myself. Hold on. That sort of because there's a lot of things that are Disney now that weren't
yeah.
Disney before, like Star Wars, Marvel, like Pirates is great, but it's like in a kind of a weird side adaptation of the whole thing. And to your point, the stuff you were talking about, like your whole generation grew up on like all the Disney Channel TV shows.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, once again, I should not always show my age the way I do sometimes on this channel, but the Disney Channel was like HBO. It was like a premium channel. You had to pay to get Disney Channel. So it didn't really have the same like kind of regular TV shows that like it did
Hmm.
later on with like Hannah Montana and like the other shows that it had eventually. Because like back then, Disney Channel was like the premium Disney movie channel. Like there'd be like this is super old man talk right here. They would do like free preview weeks where like if you were on whatever cable channel you had, they'd have Disney Channel for free for a week, and we would record on VHS all the Disney movies that they showed to make sure we had them. And so we had like a drawer in our house that had like VHSs that we put stickers on that was like Robin Hood,
Yeah.
Muppets, Take Manhattan, like just whatever they were showing on there. We were recording it off that because God forbid you go to like freaking media player Best Buy or whatever was around back then and just buy a videotape. It's like, nope, free preview week on Disney Channel. We're recording everything off the TV and saving it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. I luckily I didn't grow up in the struggle era of having to do that.
Yeah,
Which
that
we
was real stuff.
I'm still thankful that I was like around for like the DVD rental era though, because that
Hmm.
was core memories that just we don't have anymore with streaming. Um, But back to Oscar, I think Sinners is going to take so many things home.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, like to get that many nominations, and it's like weirdly like in a weird spot where it's like it was so good, but just like a touch below everything else. Like I saw like one prediction thing that said like it's gonna be crazy when this has like the most nominations of all time, but maybe it only wins like two or three like visual effects awards. But like I think I mean it's one of those things where like Oscars are really weird because it's not always like the actual best movie. It's not always the best performances. It's like who campaigns the best or like
Hmm.
who gets the right push at the right time when the voters are looking at certain stuff. So like I could see like like I could like it does feel like it's gonna be crazy if Chalamet doesn't win, but like also would not be terribly surprised if like Michael B. Jordan wins too, because I could
Yeah.
definitely see like that performance, which like I kind of think maybe a little bit more of a challenging performance to play two different characters and like make them seem generally like they're two different people. But once again, no disrespect to Chalamet, but like I definitely like Michael B. Jordan's performance a lot.
The twin thing
So
doesn't
it'll be
impress
interesting.
me.
Okay, well, teach their own. Like I've seen other performances where it's like people playing two different characters, like Eddie Murphy, like every movie he's ever done. I'm like, oh, you're just putting on makeup and stuff like that. But I was like, I think you could genuinely tell that they were two different characters. Was kind of I guess what
You
I
could.
liked about it.
Yeah, you definitely could tell that. I think I love the Sinner's music, obviously. Like that's one of like the main shining points. But I will go ahead and predict that K-pop Demon Hunters is probably going to beat them out with Golden.
Hmm. I missed that one. I did not see that one, surprisingly.
I didn't watch the movie either, but I've heard the song everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I think that probably wraps up this week's episode. I will go ahead and plug myself, Wormy, on YouTube and Twitter. I'm kind of on there, kind of not. I just go on there to shoot the link to this podcast and then probably hop off. Dylan tries to read on TikTok, and like I said earlier, I have some big things coming to the YouTube channel, a bunch of vlogs, and I'm working on another project that's pretty different. Obviously, you can tell that there's been a quality upgrade. I've actually invested a decent amount into it. So, uh, podcast special news, breaking news. I'm working on a kind of like a documentary right now surrounding the NBA bubble during the COVID time, and hopefully I can come out with those once a month, maybe in between school. Obviously, busy and work, but it's going to be like a 25 to 30 minute sort of mini doc surrounding that. So big things coming my way. Matt, if you want to go ahead and plug yourself.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited to see what comes of that because I was in Disney World right around the time they were setting up to
Oh
build
wow.
the NBA bubble. So like we were walking around Grand Floridian and like they were starting to put up like the I don't think it had started yet, but they're putting up like the walls and like the
Hmm.
security stuff. This is where the NBA players are going to be. You can't go there. So like that was kind of a crazy time. So I'm very interested to see what you're going to do with that. Like because that was certainly an interesting thing, especially as because it crosses over like a lot of my interests. Sports, Disney, weird stuff all in one bubble. So I'm excited to see that. So definitely I will be following along with you for that. So everybody else should too. But I'm Uncle Mad pretty much on every social platform. It's always Uncle Mad with two D's. Sometimes there's an underscore, sometimes there's not. I can't remember where it is, where it's not. But like you said, like I'm going out of town for a work thing next week, so I'm going to try to get some different content while I'm out of town. Document what's going on in the city I'm in. So some non-Nashville SC content should be coming up on my YouTube channel as well. So stay tuned to both of us. It sounds like we've both got some fun stuff coming up that's off the usual path.
Sweet. Thank you guys so
And I will
much.
shout out like
Go ahead.
yeah, I'll shout out real quick before we go. I mentioned this to you before we get on, but like next week is going to be a pretty interesting week for Tennessee Titans fans. Free
Hmm.
agency starts in the NFL. We're supposed to get our new uniforms revealed on Thursday, I think. So we might have some Titans stuff to talk about next week and kind of break away from just all Nashville SC and weird, goofy movie and Disney talk. But stay tuned for more. I'm sure we'll have some fun stuff to talk about one way or the other.
Yeah, you mentioned the Titans thing, and I was like, "What is I'm so tapped out. I don't know what's happening." But like I say every year, I'm going to try to follow along more. But thank you guys so much for listening to this week. Make sure you go check us out on everywhere you can, and we will see you next week.